Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to 21 Hunting and Fishing. And as you saw today, we're going to venture back into story time slash military topics. As I said, you're going to get a little bit of both here on this channel. And so this is just going to be a podcast basically. There's not much to see. I record these things on like PowerPoint or OneNote, and then you could turn them into a movie. I don't know. That's the way I started it, and I'm sure there's like much better way. But I'm also struggling with some technology a little bit, and I noticed my Mac lacks like the USB-C ports, the number of ports that I need to like get everything going at once. So I have this like hodgepodge system going on. But anyways, it doesn't matter. So I didn't know what a vignette was before I joined the Marine Corps. I don't even know how to spell it. Still, I had to look it up. Vignettes or vignette. I don't know what it means, but the Marine Corps uses vignettes. They're brief, structured, task-based training exercises. They're used to like illustrate like a quick story. We would call them like hip pocket classes in the military. There's always so much downtime, especially even if you're in the field training. There's tons of downtime, and these little vignettes can be used to illustrate different things, right? Different lessons learned. So here's a bit more detailed explanation. The Training Education Command says vignettes serve as a tool for training education, providing Marines with practical examples to understand and apply theoretical concepts. That's pretty high level. It illustrates principles. They are used to illustrate enduring principles and theories, such as those related to information and warfighting or mission command. They provide real-world context. Vignettes can use current events or hypothetical scenarios to provide context and highlight important ideas, making the learning process more relatable and engaging. When I was a senior at University of Maine doing my ROTC, all the seniors take a ethics class with the Navy captain, whether you're going to be an ensign in the Navy or a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. You have this like ethics class, and I remember one of the ethics dilemmas was basically if you have a prisoner of war, and can you torture him to get information or even kill him if for a fact it's going to save lives. And so you have these like debates, and that's like so that'd be like a quick story, kind of get you in the mindset, and then you debate. Obviously you can't kill POWs, okay? That's not what I'm saying. And I don't know if it was that severe of a consequence, but it's always something where it's like, well, there will be a lot of benefit in, blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm trying to say. It's there's stories meant to put you in some sort of ethical dilemma and debate about it. Mission command vignettes can be used to reflect the principles of mission command and how it applies in terms of leadership. Rules of engagement. Here's a big one. Rules of engagement. Every time we went overseas, there was like a different set of rules of engagement, and because we were Marines, you got to break stuff down. If you go over the number 3, you've already lost us. Ground, grill, kill. I remember that one. That is, so if a VBID is driving at you, you first shoot the ground, and then if he doesn't react to that, you shoot the grill. If he doesn't react to that, you go for the kill shot. Ground, grill, kill. That's super easy. Yeah, so rules of the game. So basically, I think you get the idea of what a vignette is. And so by now you see that vignettes are used to capture lessons learned. So I'll share some vignettes that I've learned along the way, or else they're just going to be lost in time. And some of them are kind of funny, some of them are kind of serious. So we'll just get started with vignette number 1. So I've talked a lot before about, when I was boot lieutenant at 1st Battalion, 10th Marines. Once we got back from Iraq and we stopped doing this task force military police mission, which no cannon carker wanted to do. Marines never want to like go do somebody else's job. They always want to stick to their MOS. Well, we finally got a chance to do that once we got back from Iraq, and we would convoy to Fort Bragg, quite often. I think we did it like twice a year or something like that. I have a picture of a pretty I found yesterday. Maybe I'll throw that up in post editing. But it was cool. It was a really cool exercise because you could move around. They had more training space. You could we had helicopters come in. They would pick up our howitzers and go drop them off at certain spots, and then the gun crews would link up with them and shoot. You could shoot higher, further at Fort Bragg, and we would as a Lago, you had to keep that going. So it was cool. Anyways, one exercise, I don't even know how many Rolling Thunders I did. At least the first one got caught short for me for a whole different other story. That's when I found out my wife had cancer, so I had to leave the field and deal with that. So that's a whole nother podcast. But once we took care of that, I at least 2, maybe 3. 1 year, shortly after I left Fort Bragg, the one of the cannons, one of the M777s, when they rammed the round into the back of the chamber, and I don't know they must have closed the breech, and it exploded. And I think I talked about this in the other podcast, but if you can picture like 4-inch steel that just peels back like a banana, it was unbelievable, and people got seriously injured. It's a miracle no one got hurt. There were Black Hawks flying around, not even have anything to do with our mission, but they quickly turned into real life medevacs. And anyways, it's maybe that's another podcast too. I wasn't even there for that one. But as part of the hazing package, as a boot lieutenant, I had the privilege to have a Humvee that just kept breaking down throughout this exercise. Me and my driver, we were just constantly breaking down, and this thing was just kind of limping along. And so what they did was, on the way back, they put me in the first convoy. So you'd have first convoy, second convoy, third convoy, fourth convoy, however many convoys it takes, because you have sometimes multiple battalions up there. Well, you always have multiple battalions up there because it's a 10th Marines. It's a regimental exercise. And so at this point, I wasn't a convoy commander. I was usually a convoy commander for this evolution, but they let someone else do that because I guess after I did it like 15 million times, I got enough training to do that. And so they put me in the first convoy because basically they knew the Humvee wasn't going to make it. And so it would just break down, and then we would just radio in and then be like, well, okay, the next convoy is at this particular area, just hop onto them. So I think we started in convoy number 1. I think I finally got to Camp Lejeune in like convoy number 3 or 4 or something like that. It was pretty funny. Everyone was laughing at when we got back. This was all planned. Again, part of the lieutenant hazing package. I appreciated it. But anyways, one of the times that our convoy broke down, it was I don't know how familiar you are with North Carolina, between Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, but it's pretty kind of rural, horses areas. And then anyways, this particular place broke down next to a horse. It's just like someone in their front yard had like a horse pen or whatever. I don't know what you put on horses, and it had an electric fence. And so once my driver got out, and you can I think if I remember, you can hear the electric fence, and electric fence pulsates. So you can grab onto it and it'll pulsate, because it's not like a constant charge, because you would you basically get stuck to it, because that's how electricity works. You get electrocuted. And so we're both looking at each other like, okay, you're thinking what I'm thinking, aren't you? And so we both grabbed onto the electric fence, and then I turn around, and the Humvee is rolling down the hill, and the road turns to the right. And so I turn to the I think it was like a corporal, lance corporal, like, go get your fucking Humvee. And he's running down the hill, and by the time we realized, because we were so busy paying attention to the electric fence, because that's what was more important at this time, it was already like 20 yards down the hill and it's gaining speed and the road veers to the right. Well, the Humvee with no driver keeps going straight. It's well into the oncoming traffic lane by the time the Marine was able to like jump into the driver's seat. And it's not even on, but basically, you know, the Humvee kicked itself into gear because these Humvees were just old, right? I think they've moved on from the traditional looking Humvee now. And so that could have ended very badly. This is the lesson learned. The lesson learned is pay the F attention and don't touch electric fences instead. Check the basic stuff. You know, is the car fully in park? Lots of issues happen because people forget to check the basic stuff. And I see this even in like the civilian world, and you know, you see it in the military world, but brilliance in the basic. Like this guy, and I don't know if the Humvee, I think the Humvee probably kicked itself into gear because these things are so worn out and old. It could very well do something like that. I don't know if the good driver that I had like just forgot because he was kind of stressed out. His Humvee keeps breaking down, and I don't think that's the case because he got out, he put like that little orange hoo-yah, you know, traffic thing. I don't know. He also probably should have shocked the tire, right? Here's a funny story. When I was at 29 Palms, we had a really good sergeant. This is when I was at Anglico. He was one of our motor T sergeants. The coyotes at 29 Palm tried to steal him from me because like he was just so good at this convoy stuff. They wanted him to like come and be a coyote and train others on this convoy stuff. And he was really, really good motor T, Bubba. And one of his Marines could never remember to chalk the 7-ton tires. You know, you put that like triangle looking thing so it won't roll and like do exactly like this. So yeah, that's the lesson learned. Chalk your tires, brilliance in the basics. But anyways, this Marine, he couldn't remember this simple thing. And so on the 7-ton chocks, they're chained together. There's one for the front of the tire, there's one for the back of the tire, and that's it. You just have like one set of chocks. And I remember we like got out of the convoy or something, and here comes Lance Corporal Schmuckatelli. He's got these chalks hanging around his neck. So like they're basically, you know what I'm saying? And my CO looks, and I had a really cool CO at the time, and basically the sergeant was making the Lance Corporal walk around with chalks hanging from his neck because that's like the only way he could, I guess, teach him to remember such a thing. So yeah, that could have ended badly, you know. It's kind of funny that now that no one got hurt, but man, if there was like a car oncoming and you know, you have this old ass Humvee from the 80s, like the ones you see in the movies. It was a high back, so it was just me and the driver. High back being like, it's almost like, lack of better terms, like a pickup style Humvee. So yeah, that's vignette number 1, brilliance in the basics, folks. Vignette number 2, I'm not really sure what the lesson here is, but again, we were training at Fort Bragg. Basically, the only time I went to the field with when I was in our artillery battalion was when we went to Fort Bragg, which was cool because, yeah, you could just do so much more. And I really hope I remember to put that picture of that 53 coming into. I can't remember if it was had a 777 under it or not at the time, but I got even closer than what the picture shows. And as an 0402, we did a lot. I was involved with a lot of that stuff. It's like an actual, I don't know I guess it's an MOS, but they're red tabbers. And I wasn't a red tabber, but as a logistics officer, I was always interested in what those bubbas did. Those are really cool guys. Maybe that could be another podcast, the red tabbers, the Marine Corps. Anyway, so vignette number 2, again, take advantage of those hip pocket times to train people. When we were in the field, there's just so much downtime, man. Like the movies, I don't even watch military movies unless it's like Black Hawk Down or like Bender Brothers are like really good ones because it's boring. You have so much downtime. So at one point we had a really cool doc too. Doc Wang, he was the bomb. We would hunt together. That's the tie into hunting and fishing. Doc Wang, we would go dove hunting on Camp Lejeune, and really cool dude. And anyway, so we just started to like play around with Quick Clot and stuff. And here's the thing about Quick Clot, folks. It burns, it cauterizes. So Quick Clot is really bad. It can create like quite the mess. And the emergency room doctors don't really like it because essentially the reason why it works is because when it hits the liquid blood, it cauterizes it. It gets really, really hot. And that's why you never open a bag of Quick Clot with your mouth, because it could probably seal your mouth shut. It would burn your mouth. And so what he did was we took like a chip bag and put a little Quick Clot on it, and then he just poured like a little bit of water, and it like immediately burned straight through the bag because that's how it works. It gets really hot. That's when I the one and only time I gave someone an IV. So they didn't tell me that like so you stick the IV in, and then you like pull, I don't know, the hose out or whatever. Again, I've only done it once, and you keep that. Yeah, here it is, folks. I'm remembering. So the IV is obviously a needle, but like inside the needle is like the tube. So you stick the needle in, and so that means the tube is in. But now you like pull the needle out or something. Anyways, at some point there's like a complete opening, and they didn't tell me that you had to like put pressure on where the tube was. And blood started squirting out of this corpsman's arm, and he starts like laughing. But I'm telling, like, it's like if you took a hose and just like turned it on and just kind of stuck it at like a 45-degree angle, that was like the angle of the blood like flying through the air. And so pay attention to simple instructions, or else you might get blood in your eye. I guess I think that's the lesson learned here. So yeah. That's vignette number 2. All right, vignette number 3. So here's the hunting and fishing tie-in. So again, when we would go to Fort Bragg, we would drive by this turkey factory. Like once we're getting close to Fort Bragg, and it smelled so bad. And it wasn't a farm; it was like a factory. And it smelled like ass. And the lesson learned here is kill your own food. You never know where your food is actually coming from. I think this factory was a company that rhymed with Muttersol. I don't want to say the real word because I'm getting huge now. I got 15 subscribers, so I don't want to get sued. But yeah, it's a turkey company that rhymes with Muttermall. And man, it smelled so bad. Again, I grew up in a mill town. And when I say something smells bad, I mean it. So sometimes, if you knew where your food was coming from, I'm not sure you would eat it. All right, so I can't count, obviously, because I went from 3 to 5, but I'm just going to keep rolling with it. So recruiting duty, now I'm moving on my career a little bit. I'm at recruiting duty, and so, we would have obviously the enlisted mission, which is probably what most people are familiar with. Those are like everyone in the Brothers been contacted by a recruiter at some point, when they're in high school. So that's the enlisted mission. Then there's like the officer mission, and that's where we recruit out of colleges for our enlisted folk. For our officers, and they would go to a program called PLC. Platoon Leaders Course, or OCC, which is Officer Candidate Course, I think it is. And one of them's like the PLC program is like 6 weeks one summer, then like 6 weeks the next summer. They have like juniors and seniors, and you have to pass both of them. And then OCC is like for college grads, and that's all at once. But anyways, so we had this guy. I refer to these kids as Johnny Stud, quarterback star. He was like captain of the Yale football team, always got the girl, never failed at anything in life. And wouldn't you know it, he quit OCS because he was never told that he was He wasn't good enough. He never failed at anything. And so, I don't know if it was grit. I mean, he played football, right? But I think it was just he couldn't handle someone telling him that you fail and you suck and you're not going to make it. Because he just grew up, pretty sure he grew up with like a silver spoon in his mouth, and the PT scores, that wasn't his issue. But man, you have to be mentally and physically tough for some of these training, and the more you are at one, it kind of can make up for the next, but you need to have both. You need to have a certain level of both, and he didn't have it. He again, I'm sure he would have like eventually passed and gone on, done great things, but he couldn't handle someone telling him that he wasn't good enough. So failure is not bad. Everyone's gonna fail. When you go to OCS, for example, like you're gonna fail. I failed shit. I don't even remember, but I didn't fail. I think you could fail like 2 things before you're on like probation, then they kick you out. I was never on probation. I don't remember. OCS was such a blur and kicking the balls. But anyways, and plus it's years ago. But you're gonna fail. They make you fail. It's designed so you fail because they want to see how are you going to react. What are you gonna just crumble like a cookie, like this kid did, or are you gonna be like brush yourself off? You're gonna learn and move on, because I think you'll learn from your failures a lot more than your successes. Kind of like my hunting experience last season. I shot, tracked, signed, blah blah. We never failed. We never found the deer. We got the dog, blah blah. But man, I learned more. Now I'm thinking, what I should have, could have done type thing. Whereas if I just would have, shot and killed the deer, maybe none of those lessons would be as, bold or as permanent in my mind as they are now. All right, vignette number 6, I guess. I skipped a number, so my notes say 5. The slide says 6. Anyways, so here's another one. So I guess now I'm taking a step back. Back when I was at Camp Lejeune, again with 110, I had to go be a one of the jury members on like a court martial. I'm pretty sure it was a special court martial. I don't think it was a summary. I was a summary court martial officer once. Maybe that's a different podcast. And so the thing about it is what happened was this kid popped on a drug test. We say pop on a drug test means he got his drug test came back and said that he had cocaine in his system. And Marine Corps, zero tolerance. You smoke a joint and you pop, like you're out. It's kind of ridiculous a little bit when you look now, like how marijuana is like completely legal, like, but people's like careers got destroyed, lives got destroyed over this type of stuff. But anyways, so automatic, at least NJP, but you always have the right to refuse NJP and go to court martial. Why would someone do that? You would do that because if you really thought you were innocent, and the burden of proof is now more in line with what you would expect in a court of law. Maybe not so much with the summary court martial, because at a summary court martial, you have a convenient authority, which is like, say, in my case, it was like a lieutenant colonel, battalion commander. And then I, as like a second lieutenant, am like the judge and jury. And and legally, like, I have more power as a summary court martial officer than like the battalion commander does at NJP, non-judicial punishment, if that makes sense. So that's kind of weird. Anyways, so if you've ever been on jury duty, this court martial kind of starts a lot like this. I think they had 10 staff and O, so staff NCOs and officers, and the defense attorney asks you questions, the prosecuting attorney asks you questions, and then they go deliberate, and then they say, okay, 5 of you can go. I think it started with 10, and then they let 5 people go. They didn't let me go, so I had to sit through, I think it was like 2 days of this type of thing. So, I mean, I had no no idea who this kid was, but essentially he fought the law and he won, because in the NJP, the consequences of being found guilty is a lot less, but the burden of proof is a lot less. Like basically and here's the thing, if the battalion commander's like, I'm going to NJP you, and then Friday comes along, I think NJPs were always on like a Friday, and you always had like a line of Marines out the CO's door waiting for their turn. He's not going to say, I'm going to NJP you, and then you go and you speak your mind, and then he's going to like change his mind and say, oh, never mind, I'm not going to NJP you, I'm going to find you innocent. No, that's not how it works. They always got slammed, right? Anyways, I digress a little bit. So the thing about, and I don't know if a lot of especially the young Marines know this, is like there's two things that the government has to prove. They have to prove that you took the drug, which is very scientifically proven through the urinalysis, but they have to prove that you meant to, that you had intentions to. Well, a drug like cocaine, they can just drop that, right? They can sprinkle it into your drink or whatever. And there was like no one that like saw this kid do cocaine. There was no witnesses or anything. And his defense was like, and he never got on the stand or anything. He let his defense attorney do all the talking. His defense was, I didn't mean to do this. Like, he wasn't arguing that it was in his system. The science proves that it was in his system, because what they look for is the metabolite, the thing that your body turns this cocaine into. That's what they detect. They don't detect like cocaine per se in your system. Anyways, I learned a lot about this whole process because they had an expert witness, and then the defense attorney like completely tore apart our SACO, which is like some staff sergeant who like, kind of gets stuck with this shitty duty, and he has to watch a bunch of Marines pee into cups, and he has to like look at their wiener like peeing into the cup, and so he's probably seen a lot. Anyways, the chain of custody, blah, 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 and the defense attorney was just so much better and so much more articulate than the government attorney. The government attorney, the prosecutor, he didn't have it. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, if I need a defense attorney, I want an attorney like that guy, not the prosecutor, because, and the prosecutor was, in the civilian system, they would look at the evidence, and then the district attorney would be like, okay, we see the evidence, and we're going to bring this to a trial. Well, it's a little bit different in the military, because the kid said, no, I want to go to trial, basically, because I'm going to prove myself. So then the government had to then take whatever evidence they had to try to basically destroy this kid's life. And this kid was sitting there. I mean, I say a kid, he was like a lance corporal. He was, maybe 19, 20 years old. His life's on the line. And he won. We quickly, you couldn't find this kid guilty. Like, he wasn't arguing that, again, he had cocaine in his system. He was arguing that he didn't take it on purpose, and that's what the government has to prove. There's different things. I'm not a lawyer, but like, there's different, I don't know. Again, they have to prove that it was in his system. That's done. They have to prove that he did it. He took it on purpose. They couldn't do that. So he got off. Man, that kid, balls of steel, man. Like, 99.9% of the Marines that pop on drug tests, they just take NJP and get kicked out. But this kid rolled the dice, because if he would have been found guilty, that's like something that's now on your record. That follows you. A non-judicial punishment doesn't. One sergeant major once told me that every sergeant major has at least 2 or 3 NJPs underneath his belt. And that's why he's such a good sergeant major. Tie back to the hunting and fishing thing, like this whole sand bass thing, like, no, this is not okay. Like, you're not going to take our sand bass. We're going to fight back, and we're not just going to roll over. So, pay attention to what your state is doing out there to try to prevent you from hunting and fishing and doing what you like, and, make sure that, they're doing a real science type thing. All right, so that's that. And I do have another vignette. And again, I don't have tons of time to put these things together. And so this is last vignette. So back on recruiting duty. One time I was going to one of our PCSs, one of our RSSs, recruiting substations. That was like those are like the recruiting offices you see in like the strip malls. And I'm going there. This was in Owensboro, Kentucky, I think. Or is it Owensboro, Kentucky? Yeah, I don't know. Who cares? And I look in, and like there's this mom just like bawling on like Sergeant Recruiter Man's shoulder, and I couldn't really figure out what was being said. But then she left, and the mom was crying because her son lost like 100 pounds to like join the Marine Corps, and Sergeant Recruiter Man was like the only person that could ever motivate her son in life. Like, he didn't have a dad, that type of situation. And he was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to change my life, and I'm going to lose all this weight and join the Marine Corps. And this happens frequently, man. You can Google it. You don't have to believe me. I don't care. Google it. There's these motivators out there that, go probably picked on, blah, blah, and they're like, F this, I'm changing my life. I'm going to do something else. And, that kid, I don't know where he's in the Marine Corps now, or he's probably out, who knows, but, a kid goes through that type of adversity and succeeds, like, he's unstoppable. Like, he can do anything. And that's pretty cool. Joining the military will completely change the trajectory in your life. I know as in some of my podcasts, critical leadership and stuff like that, but you're going to get that anywhere in life. You're going to get that in corporate America. You're going to get, those type of people everywhere. And the thing about the military is you're going to come across every walk of life imaginable. You're going to come across kids that couldn't speak English until they went to boot camp. You're going to come across, kids that grew up with silver spoons in their mouth. You're going to come across kids that were abject poverty. Our vice president is an amazing example of this, which is I find amazing. That guy was standing on the yellow footprints at Paris Island not too long ago, and now he's the vice president of the United States. Like, I don't really care, Republican, Democrat, straight down the middle, what you are. Like, for someone to go through that and to make that progress in his life, like his mom doing drugs, bouncing around between every guy's house because that type of thing. And, he joins the Marine Corps. He's another guy. And, he actually came through RS Louisville because he was from Kentucky, right? You look that up too. I don't care. But I actually looked this up. Like, I think he enlisted in like 2004 or something. He's about my age, and but yeah, man, now he's unstoppable. He's the vice president of the United States, and he's a enlisted Marine. That's amazing, guys. So, I had the opportunity to give someone a NROTC scholarship on their senior night of high school. Like, here's your 4-year scholarship, go forth and conquer. And, it's pretty cool. Parents thanking you, blah, blah. Like, hey, I just did the paperwork. Like, some of these kids these days, like, I didn't get the 4-year scholarship. I got a 3-year scholarship. Some of these kids these days, like, at least when I was in recruiting duty, like, you would meet these kids and like, they're I don't know, super impressive. I don't know if they're still like that in high school these days, but I mean, amazing grades, amazing sports accomplishments, all that stuff. So, pretty amazing. But again, I think to really succeed in life, maybe you do need to have some failure and some adversity in your life. And, that's why I say kill something, drag it back to your cave and eat it. See ya.